Last video, I said I'd have the vertical slice for my game At the Ends of Eras ready by July. Well, it's not ready. The video before that, I said I would cancel the game if the vertical slice wasn't ready. I haven't quite done that. Instead, I've started making a new prototype for the game. Check it out. Gameplay. This is what I'm calling a playable storyboard. It takes all the dialogue and quests from the game and puts them in this point-and-click interface. The 3D game still exists, but I've decided to prototype the quests in this form. Soon after my last devlog, I realized the vertical slice wasn't going to be finished by July. It had performance problems, placeholder artwork, and worst of all, the quests were nothing. They were boring, buggy, and didn't connect with the main story, which is the entire premise of the game, doing stuff in an open world to build up an AI of the main character's mom. Doing things and then coming back to a central character who keeps changing based on your actions. That part is barely functional. Nothing was coming together, and progress was painfully slow. So I decided to put it down, and restart one of my old game projects, Kitty Found a Camera. This is now a devlog for Kitty Found a Camera. It's an adventure game where all the puzzles involve taking a photo of something and showing it to someone. A guy talks about birds, so you take a photo of a bird and show him and he's like, "Ah, that reminds me of birds." You ever play Smile for Me? It's like that, but without everything that wasn't the camera, and also the camera takes full screenshots. I wanted to do something simple to reinvigorate myself, and if it had legs, I figured I might just quietly cancel At the Ends of Eras and pivot to Kitty Found a Camera. In 2 days I had the basics, and I made the overall structure in a couple weeks, complete with an ending. It's a lot simpler than At the Ends of Eras, and that let me focus on things that are fun to make. Characters, stories, puzzles. It was nice. While I was working on it, Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 came out. Someone finally made good video games after all this time. In Chapter 3, there's an 8-bit game within a game. Yeah, I'm spoiling Deltarune, you stupid fuck. Sans dies in Chapter 2. While playing, I thought, what if At the Ends of Eras was like this? What if I scaled way back to something like the original Legend of Zelda, but kept all the narrative elements? At the Ends of Eras is inherently open world, like I explained earlier, but it doesn't need to be 3D with all the struggles that's given me. Shader stutter, physics bugs, navigation problems. Early in development, I made a similar point about making prototypes. Even if, in the end, I want to make the game 3D, there's an underlying experience that's more important, which I can still flesh out further without getting overwhelmed with the other work. I was growing more motivated to start working on At the Ends of Eras again. Also, I ran out of ideas for Kitty Found a Camera, so I decided to go back. Make a more focused prototype. Focus on just the story, the adventures, the way everything connects to the medium. I realized a Zelda-style game would still be a lot of work, so I simplified even further to the playable storyboards, cobbled together out of UI elements. The results have been promising, but there's a ways to go. I was able to re-implement large chunks of the game in a couple days, and now I'm focusing on expanding quests and filling out important information. The quest I'm currently working on, Nightlight, is finally coming together now that I've focused on it for more than 20 minutes before getting distracted by all the NPCs walking to the center of the world or the game dropping to 10 FPS. My biggest problem is that I still don't like writing on stream. I've gotten better, but I can only do about 3 hours before I'm completely drained and I'll just not want to start the stream. Working off-stream is more comfortable but less productive. The big reason I stream at all is because if I stopped working on the game and started browsing the Funny Bunny tag on Tumblr while streaming, everybody would make fun of me for having good taste. I've basically lost the ability to work in private, but I've been trying to rebuild that skill. I found I do most of my work in bed, writing with a pen and notepad. It's become a pretty good routine. I'll do 3 or 4 pages of notes and dialogue every night, and it's how I figure out most of the plot and character motivations. My plan now is to work on the storyboards until they're done. Every quest, every interaction, every word of dialogue. It's tempting to go back to gameplay as soon as possible, but I want to know the big picture before I get lost in the weeds again. I've tried to do this before where I make the overall plot, but it just wasn't enough detail to actually implement. Once it's done, I have a few ideas. I can resume 3D development, which is my current plan. The game is still playable, and the dialogue mostly works. It'd mostly be a matter of implementing scene-specific logic. If that's too much work, I could try the 8-bit version I imagined earlier and use the 3D stuff for a different game. If that's too much, I could make proper illustrations, improve the UI, and convert the storyboards into a visual novel. I also got some interesting ideas from friends, like making it mostly a visual novel but mixing in 3D levels, or having a map like an RPG where it's a simpler world and then each important area is its own little map. There's a lot of things I can do to simplify the final project, but I'll worry about that when I get there. I'm still not sure if I've got what it takes to finish even the storyboards. I've frequently alternated between thinking it's completely hopeless and thinking I'm the greatest writer in the entire world. But, at the very least, Kitty found a camera coming December 2025, first ever first and third person photo shooter, or Fat Peepees for short. December 2025 gamers, mark it on your fucking calendar.